Or good afternoon, football fans. Big Al here on this football Sunday. It is October 20th, 2024, and here is the current look at the Week 7 injury report from across the NFL as the actives and inactives were named about 30 minutes ago. We'll be taking a look at the Patriots and Jaguars injury report first. This game is in progress in London. Jacksonville's winning 25-16 with about 4 minutes left in the game. But here is the injury report from that game, starting with the New England Patriots. Wide receiver Javon Baker is questionable with an illness. Linebacker Curtis Jacobs is questionable with a knee. Quarterback Jonathan Jones questionable with a shoulder. Guard Mike Jordan is questionable with an ankle. Tackle Vidarian Lowe is out with an ankle. Running back Ramondre Stevenson was questionable with a foot, but he is playing. Linebacker Simone Takitaki is questionable with a knee. And cornerback Marco Wilson questionable with a groin. Only two for Jacksonville here. Cornerback Tyson Campbell questionable with a hamstring. And same for running back Travis Etienne, but he was listed as inactive for this game. Alright, now to the 7 early games, starting in less than an hour, beginning with the Eagles and Giants, rather. For Philly, tight end Dallas Goedert. This is a big one. He's out with a hamstring. This is also a big one. Tackle Jordan Mailata. He's out with a hamstring. Cornerback Eli Ricks questionable with a groin. Cornerback Darius Slay questionable with a knee. Defensive tackle Brian Young is out with a hamstring. And for the New York Giants, you've got safety Dane Belton questionable with an illness. Linebacker Brian Burns questionable with a groin. Punter Jake Gillen is out with a right hamstring. Cornerback Adoree Jackson is out with a neck. And defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, key cog on that New York front seven, he's questionable with a hip. On to the Dolphins and the Colts. We'll start off with the Dolphins. Both wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. and long snapper Blake Ferguson are questionable due to personal matters. Safety Javon Holland is doubtful with a hand. That's a big blow for him. Tackle Austin Jackson questionable with a back. Linebacker David Long is questionable with a knee. Defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah is questionable with biceps. Cornerback Cam Smith questionable with a hamstring, and quarterback Skylar Thompson is questionable with ribs. So if he doesn't go, looks like we'll be getting Huntley once again for Miami. For the Indianapolis Colts, wide receiver Josh Downs questionable with a toe. Cornerback Chris Lemons is out with an ankle. Defensive end Dayo Odeyingbo is questionable with a hamstring. Wide receiver Alec Pierce questionable with a shoulder. Wide receiver Michael Pittman questionable with a back. Tackle Braden Smith and linebacker EJ Speed are both questionable with knee injuries. And running back Jonathan Taylor is out today with an ankle. Titans at Bills. We'll start with Tennessee. Wide receiver Treylon Burks out today with a knee. Defensive tackle Keandre Coburn, he's also out with a knee. Linebacker Cedric Gray out with a shoulder. Quarterback Will Levis questionable with a right shoulder, but Mason Rudolph will get the start for Tennessee in this one. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed questionable with a quadricep, and running back Tyjae Spears is out with a hamstring. For the Buffalo Bills, you've got running back Ray Davis questionable with a calf. Safety Mike Edwards questionable with an illness. Running back Darrington Evans is doubtful with a hamstring. On to the Bengals and the Browns, and there's only one name listed for the Bengals. Cornerback DJ Ivy is questionable with a knee, so outside of that, looks like the Bengals are relatively healthy. For the Cleveland Browns, running back Nick Chubb is questionable with a knee, but he's pretty much expected to make his season debut for Cleveland today. Running back Jerome Ford is out with a hamstring. Safety Ronnie Hickman Jr. out with an ankle. Linebacker Jordan Hicks is questionable with an elbow and a triceps. Running back Nyheim Hines questionable with a knee. Center Ethan Pochik questionable with a knee. And safety Juan Thornhill is questionable with a calf. Seahawks and Falcons will begin with Seattle. Cornerback Trey Brown is out with an ankle. Tackle Stone Forsythe is out with a hand. Safety Jarek Reed II is out with a knee. Running back Kenneth Walker is questionable with an illness. And cornerback Rick Wallen out with an ankle. For the Atlanta Falcons, you've got linebacker Troy Anderson. He's out once again with a knee. Linebacker Lorenzo Carter also out with a concussion. And cornerback Antonio Hamilton is questionable with a back. Plus, safety Justin Simmons is questionable with a hamstring. Texans Packers will begin with Houston. Linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair is out with a knee. Defensive tackle Foley Fatukasi is questionable with a shoulder. Cornerback Kamari Lassiter is out today with a shoulder. Wide receiver Steven Sims questionable with a back. Linebacker Henry Tutu is out with a concussion. Safety Jimmy Ward is out with a groin, and wide receiver Robert Woods is out with a foot. For the Green Bay Packers, you got wide receiver Dontavian Wicks questionable with a shoulder. Defensive tackle Kobe Wooden is questionable with a knee. And defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt out once again with an ankle. Lions, Vikings. And we'll begin with Detroit. Cornerback Carlton Davis is questionable with a quadricep. Guard Christian Mahogany is out with an illness. And guard Kevin Zeitler is questionable with a groin. And for the Minnesota Vikings, no linebacker Brian Cashman. He's out today with a toe. Cornerback Caleb Evans is also out with a hip injury. Tight end TJ Hawkinson is questionable with a knee. Running back Aaron Jones is listed as questionable. They did not state what his injury was. Defensive end Patrick Jones II is questionable with a shoulder. Defensive tackle Harrison Phillips is questionable with a shoulder. And guard Dalton Reisner is questionable with a back. To the late games, starting with the Panthers and Commanders. For Carolina, running back Jonathan Brooks is out with a knee. Linebacker Claudine Churlius is out with a hamstring. Linebacker Jadeveon Clowney is doubtful with a shoulder. Defensive tackle Jaden Cromedy is also doubtful with an ankle. Safety Sam Franklin Jr. is doubtful with a foot. Cornerback Dane Jackson is questionable with a hamstring. Linebacker Josie Jewell sitting out once again. He has a hamstring and a groin. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson is questionable. He has ribs and he has an ankle injury as well, listed by NFL.com as a third injury. Wide receiver David Moore is questionable with a knee. Tackle Taylor Moton is out with an elbow. Tackle Yosh Neiman is questionable with a knee. Defensive end LeBron Ray is questionable with an ankle and a knee. Alright. Safety Andrew Ryan has cleared concussion protocol and does not have a game status at this point. Linebacker John Radigan is out with a knee and an illness. Defensive end A'Shawn Robinson is out with a knee. And tight end Tommy Tremble is questionable with a back and a concussion. He has cleared concussion protocol and his game status is a result of his back injury. For the Washington Commanders, defensive end Dorrance Armstrong is out with a rib injury. That's pretty big for them. Defensive end Clelin Ferrell is questionable with a knee. Linebacker Jordan McGee is questionable with a knee as well. Safety Tyler Owens out with a shin. And running back Brian Robinson is questionable with a knee. Raiders Rams. We'll start with Vegas. Defensive tackle Adam Butler, questionable with both a knee and illness. Linebacker Tommy Eichenberg is out with a quadricep. Defensive tackle John Jenkins is questionable with an illness. Linebacker Kanai Mwaga is out with a knee. Wide receiver Jacoby Myers is doubtful with an ankle. Guard Dylan Parham is out with a foot. And running back Zamir White is questionable with a groin. And for the LA Rams, wide receiver Cooper Kupp is questionable with an ankle. Tackle Joe Noteboom is questionable with an ankle. And wide receiver Jordan Whittington is questionable with a shoulder. Chiefs Niners in the Super Bowl rematch from last February. We'll start with Kansas City, who only has 2 names listed. Defensive end Michael Dana is out with a pec. And wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is questionable with a hamstring. And for the San Francisco 49ers, defensive tackle Kevin Givens is questionable with a groin. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings is out with a hip. That's a big loss. Cornerback Darrell Luter Jr. is questionable with a pelvis. Kicker Jake Moody is out with a right ankle. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall is questionable with a chest, but it's understood that he'll be making his season debut today. And kicker Matthew Wright is out today with a shoulder and a back. Jets Steelers later tonight, starting with the New York Jets. Cornerback Michael Carter II is out with a back. Tight end Tyler Conklin questionable with a hip. Cornerback DJ Reed is questionable with a groin. And linebacker Chaz Surratt is questionable with a heel. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, defensive tackle Montavious Adams is questionable with a knee. Tackle Dylan Cook is out with a foot. Center Zach Frazier is out with an ankle. Linebacker Nick Herbig is out with a hamstring. Safety DeMonte Kazee is questionable with an ankle. Running back Cordell Patterson is out with a knee. And wide receiver Roman Wilson is questionable with a hamstring. Alright, now to the Monday Night Football doubleheader, beginning with the Ravens and Bucks, starting with Baltimore. Running back Rasheen Ali is out with an ankle. Linebacker Malik Harrison out with a groin. Cornerback Arthur Millette is questionable with a knee and a hamstring. And defensive end Broderick Washington is out with a knee. For Tampa, defensive end Ernest Brown is questionable with ribs. Cornerback Jamil Dean out tonight or tomorrow night with a hamstring. Tight end Payne Durham is also out with a calf injury. Wide receiver Rakim Jarrett is out with a knee. Wide receiver Cameron Johnson is out with an ankle, so they're pretty thin with the wide receivers. Wide receiver Trey Palmer is questionable with a concussion. Defensive tackle Vita Vea questionable with a hamstring. And running back Rashad White is questionable with a foot. And for the second game, the Chargers at the Cardinals, will begin with the Chargers. Defensive end Joey Bosa is doubtful with a hip. Wide receiver DJ Chark is questionable with a groin. Wide receiver Darius Davis is questionable with a hamstring. Wide receiver Simi Fehoko is questionable with a shoulder and a groin. Cornerback Christian Fulton questionable with a hamstring. Tight end Hayden Hurst is doubtful with a groin. Wide receiver Quentin Johnson is doubtful with an ankle. Cornerback Dean Leonard is out tomorrow night with a hamstring. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey questionable with hips. And cornerback Jasir Taylor is questionable with a fibula injury. And for the Arizona Cardinals, running back Trey Benson is questionable with an illness. Cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting, questionable with a neck injury. Tackle Christian Jones is questionable with an ankle. Defensive tackle Roy Lopez, questionable with an ankle. Linebacker Owen Pappoe is out with a hip. Defensive tackle Darius Robinson is also out with a calf. Linebacker Kazir White is questionable with a knee. And cornerback Garrett Williams is questionable with a groin. That is a look at your Week 7 NFL injury report ahead of the early games on this Sunday afternoon / Sunday morning, wherever you are in this great nation of ours. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have just defeated the New England Patriots in London 32-16. So that game has just gone final out at Wembley Stadium. We'll be back tomorrow with a look at the newest college football rankings. And it looks like we may have a new #1 team in the country after Texas lost last night. I'll fill you in on all the details tomorrow. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.